Let's rock it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. I'm your host, Stephen Keeler, of course, owner of the world-famous Rock Fantasy Record and Smoke Shop and Pinball Menagerie here in Middletown, New York. Tonight, we set the time machine back 50 years as we do the Rock Fantasy Channel 70s international style. We chat about 3 albums from 1974. Before we get started tonight, I'm going to talk about a little bit what went on in 1974, but I'm not going to talk politics or regular news. I'll do a little bit of sports, and we'll do some music stuff. Super Bowl was won by the Minnesota Vikings, won by the Miami Dolphins over the Minnesota Vikings. What else we got? The Philadelphia Flyers won the Stanley Cup over the Boston Bruins. The New York Nets defeated the Utah Stars in the ABA. The Boston Celtics won the NBA Finals and over the Milwaukee Bucks. The Oakland A's won the World Series over the LA Dodgers. Hank Aaron hit home run 715 to beat breaking Babe Ruth's record. I remember watching that.
I watched it too.
Yeah. Formula One World Championship. Emerson Fittipaldi, the NASCAR champion, was Richard Petty. He also won the Daytona 500. Johnny Rutherford won the Indy 500. Now on to some music news. 200,000 fans attended the California Jam Rock Festival. Artists performing in the event were Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Black Oak, Arkansas, and the Eagles. August 18th or 16th, the Ramones' first appearance at New York City's venue, CBGB. The venue would help establish their place at the forefront of punk rock. June 14th, David Bowie launched his Diamond Deluxe tour at the Montreal Forum. I wonder if Denny was there. Maybe not. Maybe a little too young.
Not too young. I wasn't there.
You would have won as a little kid. April 16th, Queen played their first North American concert, opening up for Mott the Hoople in Denver, Colorado. April 14th, ladies and gentlemen, the Rolling Stones, a concert film made during the Rolling Stones 72 tour, premieres at the Ziegfeld Theater in New York. Now, on to this week's records. We've got 3 records we're going to talk about. The first off is Desolation Boulevard. It's the 3rd studio album by the British glam rock band Sweet. Originally released in the United Kingdom in November of 74. There's noticeably 2 different versions of the album. One was released by RCA Records in Europe, another by Capitol in the United States, Canada, Japan. Tonight, we are reviewing the U.S. version. The info on that is the Desolation Boulevard, released in the United States, July 75. Of course, different from the UK version. Several songs from the previous album, Sweet Fanny Adams, in addition to the Ballroom Blitz and Fox on the Run Signals. The album churned out 2 huge radio hits. The Ballroom Blitz, and that came out that year. It reached up to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. It remains an enduring favorite, but over 90 million streams on Spotify alone at the end of 2022. A lot of people listening to that. The single Fox on the Run also topped the Billboard charts at number 5. And the song's inclusion in the trailer of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 led to a number 1 spot on the iTunes rock chart back in 2016. Now we go off to Canada and we talk about Bachman Turner Overdrive. Not Fragile is the 3rd album by them. Released in 74 also, of course. Proved to be the group's most popular studio album. It reached number 1 on the Billboard 200 in the United States. It also churned out a number 1 hit single. And I got my papers mixed up here, so give me a second. I'm a bad news person today. Where is that paper? Here it is. I'm bad, but I'm trying not to give you fake news. That's real news tonight. Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, of course, was the number 1 song off of that album. Came out. It was released as a single that year. Instrumental track Freewheelin' was the B-side. It reached the number 1 position on the Billboard Hot 100 Singles chart in the Canadian chart the week of November 9th, 74. It was originally not intended to be a single, but it became popular as an album cut. Radio stations all over the USA were giving it a great deal of airplay, as Not Fragile was soaring up the album chart, so much that Bachman was embarrassed because he thought it was a stupid song, just something he wrote as a joke. And then, of course, it came out and it went all the way to #1. And it was the only U.S. #1 single in BTO's history. While as part of the Guess Who, Bachman had penned another U.S. chart chopper, American Woman, which hit #1 in 1970. Another hit single that came off of that record was Roll On Down the Highway. It peaked at #14 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1st of 75. And then we move on. So the BTL album was huge in the States. I mean, as you can see, it was #1 album, had #1 single coming off it. Rock radio was dominating the airwaves still. And then the third album we're going to talk about is by a band that's maybe more remembered than the other two, Aerosmith. It's the third studio album, Get Your Wings. It was released on March 15th of 74. The album was first to be produced by Jack Douglas, also responsible for the next 3 albums. 3 singles were released from the album, but none reached the singles charts. And the album was released in stereo and quadraphonic and certified triple platinum by the RIAA. And Get Your Wings came out to not much fanfare. There wasn't singles that charted. Everything else compared to the other 2 albums we talk about tonight, which had 2 big hits, and they were all over the radio back then, and you still in classic rock promotion. So I'm not going to go first, but our guest tonight, we got Ove, of course, one of our regulars from Norway. He stayed all night for us, and he's watching Seinfeld reruns. He's supposed to be watching reruns from the 70s. Put yourself in the mood. I told him All in the Family or Sanford and Son or something like that. Tony Dio, of course, from North Carolina is here. We got Ed Farsley, Armageddon Production. We got Count Ralphus in the center, my center square, our local rock historian. We got Denis Sasquatch Barthe here from The Mighty Aggression. We got Robert Tuttle from Lady Evil. We got Nick from Spellbook back. So this is our crew we got for going back in the 70s on Rock Fantasy Channel 50 years ago. I won't give my age away. I was a 14-year-old kid listening to this stuff back then, but I don't have my time machine. I can't really go back and just talk about those days. So who wants to kick us off? Anybody got to leave early, go for work, anything, hockey games, anything else tonight? Everybody's here for the endurance. All right.
How about you start, Steve?
What's that?
How about you starting for a change?
You want me to start? All right, let me start then. Let me get the right page, guys. Everybody thinks it's funny.
It is funny.
It is funny. All right, so let me get my right notes here and get it.
You've got a good story.
I do have a good story.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. We like a good story.
I like a sweet. All right, so I don't know if I'm ready to go first as I go through my sheets.
You go first. You go second.
I can do it. All right.
Okay.
So I guess how we go around tonight, we're gonna rank these albums 1 to 10, and just so everybody's smooth with that, and we'll rank them in order. What do you like least, or at least for today, or it could change tomorrow. But my number 3, a little surprising, it might be, because I think it's one of Aerosmith's stronger albums, is the Get Your Wings record. And I really love the song Spaced, Lord of the Thighs, the cover of Train Kept a Rolling, and Same Old Song and Dance. I just don't like this album as much as I do the other 2. So the next album coming in at number 2. Denny, you gonna keep score for me tonight?
I'm already on it.
Oh, you're on it. All right, cool, man. Scorekeeper and hockey aficionado. My second album, I mean, this is pretty close between these 2, but I tell you what, the one I chose for number 1, I listened to a lot more than I do. I went back to this BTO. BTO were a huge influence on me back in high school. Them, Deep Purple, of course, Sabbath. But BTO, I don't know, something about it. Me and my friends, we always listened to BTO. This album, the Not Fragile album, of course, four-wheel drive, BTO2. There were just I never got to see him. Never saw him live in concert, but really dig this album. The opening riff of that title track with the da 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 da, that Not Fragile. It's coming at you. That was heavy. I think it's still heavy as shit, but it was really heavy in '74. I mean, they were right there in your collection of 8 tracks or whatever with all the greats. I think they're a little bit forgotten in time with new generations, because I got a pile of BTO records in the store, and they don't really. People aren't coming in scooping them up like Zeppelin and Sabbath and all the other greats, but it's just so damn heavy. The hit "Roll On Down the Highway," another great song. It's like kind of like a trucker thing. I don't know if they're on tour or what they're delivering goods, whatever they're doing in the song, but super heavy. And the song "Sledgehammer," it's another freaking heavy ass song. And the freewheeling song too, I think it's just great. So I'm gonna put BTO at number 2. I can close down. I can get off the show after this. I'm done for the night already. But anyhow, my number 1 album from that year is going to be Sweet. I absolutely love this album. To me, it's just iconic. I love the cover, like the LA Strip thing. It's just, to me, it's kind of like you can almost hear parts of Bowie in this at times. I don't know why, maybe because it's English, but it's like punk. It's heavy. It's cool. My favorite track is "No You Don't." I mean, that thing is just nasty, I think. "Into the Night's" another great song. I'm not even mentioning the hits, which I think are great too. "I Want to Be Committed." I always thought that was a great song to listen to back in the day. Of course, my room looked like this in '73 or '74, black light posters, and you're putting this record on, and it's just a great record. And "Set Me Free" is another great track off of that thing. Of course, "Ballroom Blitz" wasn't on the Europe versions and whatnot, but what a great song that is. I still don't get tired of hearing that. "Fox and Arana," of course, was a great song too. But BTO, I can tell you a little bit about the story, because back in the day, if you guys are watching, crew we already talked about before we started taping, there was a place, if you pick up your old circus magazines, if you collect that kind of stuff, if you have some sitting around, or maybe even Cream of the old rock magazines, there was a place called T-Shirt Barn. Back then, you didn't have the internet or anything to order your T-shirts from, so you would go through your rock magazines, like, oh, mail order, I can get like the new Black Sabbath T-shirt. So I said, how you got your shirts? That happened to be maybe like 5-10 minutes from my house right now. I live in my childhood home here. So a friend of mine from high school, we were all like 15-year-old kids, 16-year-old kids maybe, going, and he found out, hey, that T-shirt barn place is in New Hampton, New York. It would say it on the ad, and that's like the next town over. So we somehow, one of my friends, it was a little bit hazy, his sister knew their kids or something somewhere, so we got to go to the T-shirt barn. It's just a regular house with old barn behind it. And I still remember going up there the first time, like knocking on the door. Can we come in and look around? Hey, we'll each buy a T-shirt, and my first T-shirt I ever bought was a BTO shirt. I was so proud to get that shirt and wear it to school the next day. And I forget what my other friends bought too, probably a Deep Purple shirt or something, but it was so cool that place was around town. Of course, we always wanted to go back there. We didn't have much money being kids, but I think maybe we got to go back there once, and I don't think he was real fond of us wandering around. But later on, when I first opened my store, the T-shirt barn was still in business, and he was still doing mail order. He actually moved to Kingston. So when I first opened in '85, I actually would buy T-shirts from him sometimes to sell in the store. So Dave O'Keefe was the guy's name, and he was part of rock history, I guess. Just imagining walking
That's
in
a
that
cool
time
story.
capsule with all those great old T-shirts. So anyhow, I guess that's enough of me rambling on to start off the show tonight.
That's a good story. I mean, T-shirts was the way to get things around.
Rock
So it's
T-shirts. We're still all wearing them today, aren't we?
yeah, but back then it was like the only way to spread the word, really.
Oh yeah.
without
Well, it was part of it,
talking to
of course.
everybody.
Yeah. because there was no
Well,
internet.
that's a good story, Steve.
I mean, you buy the magazines, and you couldn't just. Not all the stores had them, so you do mail orders, of course. Yep, yep. So, where Ralph disappeared.
No, I think he did disappear.
Well, he's disappeared right now, but so Denny is my center square right now. So I'm going to
Probably
go over
gonna get Marcus
to.
back again.
I'm going to go over to Tony Dio. We're going to kick off with him, and we'll scoot around here.
Okay. Yeah. So this is another tough one. There's three really, really, really strong albums, and I don't actually own a physical copy of the BTO album. I think I've had it in the past when I bought some collections of vintage albums, but for some reason I didn't keep one. And going back and listening to this, you say?
Shame on you.
Well, going back and listening the last couple of days online, I'm like, God, I got to get this because this is a really, really good album. But I'm gonna put that at my number 3 because was not so familiar with it. But God, it's a really, really good record. It's I mean, that, like you said, man, Steve, that title track when it kicks in with that opening riff of Not Fragile and the gruff vocals come in. I mean, it's really heavy for 1974. And I loved I did have a best of BTO on CD, and so I knew some of the songs like You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet and Roll On Down the Highway. And I actually did see BTO in 1986. I saw Van Halen on the 5150 tour, and BTO was the opening act for that tour.
Wow.
And I remember them playing a cover of Mississippi Queen that night. And they said they were recording a live album on that tour to come out. And I think it came out like a year later, and it was called Live, 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 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they were really good live, good opening band for the show. But yeah, so many good songs. Like I said, I really like Roll On Down the Highway. That's just a really cool song. And Sledgehammer, another one, just powerful riff on that one. And Freewheeling's a great instrumental. So yeah, good stuff. Just I kind of like these other ones a little better. We're gonna go to Get Your Wings, of course, from Aerosmith. Always like this one. It's one of my favorite Aerosmith albums for sure. Seasons of Wither. It's just that's just one of my favorite tracks on here. Lord of the Thighs, love that one. I went to see Aerosmith in the 90s at an arena once, our amphitheater, and it got really good seats. And they were just playing all the stuff from like Pump and whatever, Get a Grip or whatever it was that was out at the time. And they played Lord of the Thighs, and people started sitting down, started walking off to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
And like, is this a new song? Me and my 3 friends were standing up like, yeah, yes, this is great. They're busting out some old stuff, But yeah, it's like I said, that's a great one. I love SOS, and I mean, just it's and I love Train Kept a Rolling. That was just a great track. I had a friend tell me once when he was a little kid, he used to hear Train Kept a Rolling on the radio, and he didn't understand what they were saying. He thought that they were saying drink caparoni all night. He's thinking, what is caparoni? It must be something like coffee or something, So he thought that's what he was. So I still hear that when I hear it now. He told me that story. It was just funny. But my number 1 is going to be definitely Desolation Boulevard from the Suite. You mentioned the cover, the Sunset Strip behind. That's a Hypnosis album cover that did all like the UFO and a lot of stuff with Pink Floyd and stuff. And it's a place called I think it was called like something McNasty's, or was the club in the back, but that club eventually became the Viper Room. The famous Viper Room from the Sunset Strip. But yeah, this is some great stuff on here. A couple I don't know, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, I went out and picked up this set of these Sweet reissues on CD. And it's a really nice set. It's very well done. Tons of B-sides, bonus tracks on them. And a lot of the songs that were on the US version of Desolation Boulevard came from the Sweet Fanny Adams album, and then the European version of Desolation Boulevard. And Ballroom Blitz was like a single, wasn't even on the albums.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some great songs on this one. I love No You Don't. you know, the first half, side one, sweet stuff was written by their managers. Was it Chapman? What was the name of the guys? Chin and Chapman, the writing team. They wrote a lot of pop hits. And so side one is all of their songs. Side two is stuff that the guys in Sweet actually wrote. But No You Don't is a really heavy track. It should actually go on side two, and Fox on the Run would fit better on side one, I think. But yeah, side two so heavy. I mean, Sweet FA, just a great, just chugging riff when that comes on. It Set Me Free, just a fast-paced song. You know, all of us that love thrash so much probably remember Heathen doing a cover of that in the 90s. You know, they did a thrash hip cover of that. Into the Night's great, Solid Gold Brass, just great stuff on this album. But yeah, I mean, Ballroom Blitz is a classic. There's not a bad track on this album. AC/DC is another great one. I love this record, and it's definitely, this is the first one I ever got by him, and so it's always kind of my favorite, and made me want to go back and rediscover some stuff that I had missed out on. Like I said, if you can find those that set of the reissues that came out like 15, 20 years ago, I can't remember what year it says these actually came out, but they're like RCA 2005 actually. So so close to 20 years.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they were really cool. They got all the B-sides. They had some great B-sides too.
Yeah.
Just a really cool band. Very influential band. I think they definitely influenced a lot of what became like known as the hair metal thing, the glam thing, because so many bands on the California strip, I'm sure, were listening to Sweet, especially the first wave, the bands that came out with Van Halen, like Legs Diamond and bands like that. They were probably all into the Sweet big time. So very influential band, and very sad story with those guys. So many of those guys, you know, just went through so much crap and died at young ages. And you know, what is it? The guitar player keeps the band going. He's like the only original member, but he keeps it going with various lineup changes, I think, through the years. Yeah, cool band though. Yeah, so Sweet's number one for me.
The lyrics from Sweet FA probably would get canceled in 2020.
Oh yeah, ton of stuff that they sing about.
I'm gonna bust her head.
If she don't spread, I'm gonna bust her head. He wants to get in a fight. Yeah, he's having a wild Friday night. But yeah, it's just when we were looking over stuff last week, I said it's hard to pick. We're gonna go back to 74 because there's other albums from that. But I picked this three. I don't know if they, you know, to me, I had to do Sweet Desolation Boulevard and give it some love.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so Tony Dio, we're gonna head over. I'm gonna go in order of my squares right now a little bit. I'm gonna go to Ed. I'm gonna go to Sasquatch. We'll go back for his scores at the end. We'll go to Rob. We'll go to Nick, Count, and I'll close up with Ove tonight. How's that? Is that okay, Ove?
Sounds good.
Good. All right, Ed. Good to see you, brother.
Sounds good.
What's going on, guys? So 1974, I was 5 years old. So I don't really remember when these albums came out personally. I certainly got into them later through the radio, and then discovering deeper cuts later on and checking the albums out. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. One thing these three bands all had in common: exceptional vocalists. These three bands, the vocal deliveries of all three of these gentlemen is absolutely phenomenal. Especially on these three albums, they all have very unique, very distinctive, very emotional voices, and they stand out and just bring these bands to a whole new level. First of the three bands, number three for me is BTO, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Not Fragile. Great record, absolutely. But again, we got to start somewhere. Canadian hard rockers, lots of great songs through the 70s, just album after album, hit after hit, and good stuff, not just radio-friendly poppy hits, which is really solid hard rock. Similar to like Grand Funk, Mountain, bands like that, just really killer stuff. Let's see, some of the great songs. Rock Is My Life, This Is My Song. Just great lyrics. Kind of reminds me of like a Randy Newman type of feel to it. The instrumental, Freewheeling, really cool instrumental. Roll On Down the Highway, great driving song. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, the classic song, the classic hit. Just a really great record. Number 2 record for me, Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. As other guys have mentioned, a great record. Not as great as some of the other ones, but still a great record. At the time, they still hadn't really broken internationally or currently, being that popular yet, so they didn't really have any hits. They weren't that big, but they started growing. A couple of songs did become radio-friendly hits later on. Let's see here. Same Old Song and Dance, absolutely great song. Love that song. Spaced, Train Kept Rolling, Seasons of the Wither, very mellow, melodic song. Great vocal delivery on that song, slowest song in the album. And just like everyone else so far tonight, my number 1 album, Sweet. Just one of the most influential bands for decades to come in the rock and metal genres. Just so many bands have covered their songs, again, throughout rock, throughout metal, popular, anything. They've influenced so many people through the generations. Not given half the much credit as they should. They were so brilliant, so heavy, just a really solid band. Vocally, visually, lyrically, just like I said, influenced every band, came first in so many ways. The glam scene, of course, they're synonymous for beginning, but just so much more. This album, as a couple guys have mentioned, with 2 very different versions that came out. The 74 original version on Capitol Records. Oh, actually, no, 74 version was RCA in Europe. 75 is Capitol in the US, Canada. Very, very different versions. It's a pain in the ass. I thought we were doing the 74 version. So I started listening on Spotify, which was actually the 75 version.
Oh,
I realized that at
I
the
really
very end, I'm
messed
like,
up,
oh,
didn't
shit,
I?
wrong version. And half the songs are different. They dropped 6 songs, added a bunch of songs for the second album, including and then Ballroom Blitz. So I went back and I listened to Sweet for like 2 hours. It was great. But then I listened to all the other stuff on YouTube, and just every song is great. I mean, it really is. Sweet is just a phenomenal band. They definitely have like a lot of different vibes, different grooves to some of their songs. Let's see here.
So I guess we did kind of cheat. We got a 75 album, but it was
Right,
originally
exactly,
a 74.
yeah. It's a mixture of both albums. It's wild.
Yeah.
And it's so, I don't know why they changed so many songs. I guess like Tony said, something to do with the writers, I guess. But basically both records are great. Some of the best songs I think were on the 74 version, like let's see, Medusa, Lady Starlight, the ballad, 2 excellent songs that didn't make it on the 75 version. The 16s, definitely my favorite song. Absolutely love that song. Just love the whole groove of it. It's a fantastic song to listen to. It can't even put into words. It's just so great. Let's see here. Fox on the Run, of course. I mean, what can you say? It's an absolute great song. I like of the 2 versions, I prefer the 74 version. I think it's a lot grittier than the US when they re-recorded it. And let's see. Oh, we talked also not on the 75 version, but the 74. One of the most unusual covers I probably ever recorded. The Man with the Golden Arm. Pretty much a cover of the James Bond theme song from Man with Golden Gun.
Yeah.
Definitely lengthened a lot, reimagined. Big drum solo, very cool. My Generation, the Who cover, sounds more like the Who than the Sweet, which is very cool, even vocally. I mean, Sweet were definitely one of the bands like Venom. They put out a lot of great songs on singles that didn't initially come on albums. You had to buy the singles. Ballroom Blitz, and also was it Someone Else Here? I love that song. The ultimate lyrics, of course. If you don't go down on me, someone else will. You can't top that. You just can't top that. So there you go. Number Sweet was Sweet. The Sweet number 1. Both
Hell
versions,
Yeah, but
74 and
this is not
75.
actually a new thing though, because Rolling Stones, they had UK albums and the US album is completely different. Beatles
Yeah.
in the 60s. This was a big thing in the 60s.
I had my friend Carl and Gale that used to sing for COC. He had a band in about 10 years ago called Leadfoot, and kind of a Southern metals type band, and they did a really, really good cover of Someone Else Will.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Cool.
Well, Ed,
Thanks.
I wanted to say, Ed, I don't own a physical copy of the UK version, which blows my mind. I don't have one, being such a huge fan, but I don't. And but I always listen to it on YouTube because you can't get it on Spotify and stuff.
Right. Yep.
And what always struck me was Fox on the Run. Like, man, this is way more grittier and rough. And I'll talk about it more later, but I got the Martin Popoff book, and they go all into that. And
Nice.
when they recorded the original album, the UK version, they went for a live feel. That's what they wanted. And so that's why all of them songs sound a little bit more grittier.
Right.
And but to get them over to America, the deal was they were going to take songs off Sweet Fanny Adams, half and half, and to make like almost like a greatest hits album for them.
That's what it sounds like.
And that was their ticket to getting over to America. So
there you go. That's the reason.
It's like AC/DC with high voltage being high voltage part to the US version.
Right.
Yep. Cool. So Denis Sasquatch Barthe, you seem to, I heard the rumor that you actually know the Bachmans. So we're gonna have to start with some Canadian stories tonight, because he has the best stories. A neighbor of Frank Marino. He did something with Jeff Tate's girlfriend once, or I don't know. There's plenty of stories from Canada. Great White North.
I'm gonna have to be careful what I say now. I got a lot of personal message sent to me about but yeah, all good. I'll see whatever I want. I don't give a shit.
I did watch Strange Brew last week, Denny.
Oh yeah? 74. I was 8 years old. I got my first guitar. Also 74. I don't know why, but we started to buy a lot of 45. So we would get a couple songs.
Yeah.
But no pictures, nothing. We didn't know what the band looked like and things like that. That's why for the first year of my knowing Rush, I thought it was a girl singer. And to my disappointment, it wasn't. So I think for me, for these three albums, Aerosmith is definitely my favorite band of these three bands. But they were gonna come last on this battle of record. So Aerosmith, I always felt like Get Your Wings was my least favorite album of the golden era of Aerosmith. I felt it was a transitional album for them, going from straight up rockers from their first album into a side Dream On, and then going into Toys in the Attic, Rocks, and Draw the Line. There's some weird shit on there. I was almost what are you guys doing? And I know around that time they started to touring with a lot of different bands, and I think they were exposed to some prog bands and a lot of things that bands doing. I don't know, but if you listen to the songs themselves, especially Space, which is not surprising, Stephen Keeler's favorite song. But I don't know why, but some of the stuff in there, even Pandora's Box and the way the song starts, it's very much more experimental, I guess, than what you would expect from what usually Aerosmith does. Having said that, I love Same Old Song and Dance. I think it's surprising that it was not higher in the charts. And then SOS is one of their. I love the live bootleg version of that song, but even on this record, it's super good. Train Kept a Rolling, probably the best Yardbirds cover of that version or whatever. I think even the Yardbirds was a cover as well anyway. But that was great. Lord of the Tides, also a great song. But I don't know, it's always the one I listen the least. Actually the first two, but yeah, so a lot of times I'll just go back to Toys in the Attic and Rocks and Draw the Line, but there's enough good things interesting that you can listen to years later, and you go back and listen to Season of Winter or like Space or Woman of the World, like, that's in that song. And then,
Yeah.
but a really weird, like experimental album for Aerosmith. Now my number spot 2 is BTO. And I was talking about before we started recording, Bachman Turner Overdrive for me reminds me of Blue Oyster Cult, just in the way that it's a really screwed up, obscure band. First of all, you have two singers. You have like C.F. Turner, who sings on Not Fragile, and he sings on all the obvious like Bachman Turner Overdrive song. And then you have Randy Bachman, who has more. So Bachman has more like a Bach Dharma delivery of singing, kind of like Ace Frehley-ish, like very like debonair, like, you know, almost like half-ass delivery, while C.F. Turner sounds like I'm much more like Eric Bloom, or like a lot more stronger like vocal delivery. And these guys were like big guys. They looked like lumberjacks.
Yeah.
They didn't have like that cute guy, like, you know, they looked
Yeah.
like blue collar guys, like, you know, working on construction, and there was no sex appeal to that band, like zero. It was non-existent. So, and BTO was the type of band I could take like 10 of their songs from like 4 or 5 different records, put them all on one record, and then get an amazing record. They should do that. They should have done what like AC/DC did with High Voltage and Sweet did with Desolation Boulevard, and do that to present themselves to the US. But obviously didn't do that because they still had like number 1, number 2, like hit singles with some songs that like are so like far apart in style and delivery. And so, and I think the reasons like why they were like that is like in Canada, and I said that before, radio station plays like, I think they have to play like 90, 80. There's a percentage of Canadian content they need to play. And I think some of those bands have needs to try to write some music that will appeal for the radio station so they can make money and continue as artists, right? But it creates some weird shit. Like, so you have like Not Fragile, which is like one of the heaviest song you can think of, and could go against pretty much anything around that era, and you'd be like, whoa, that's you know, even the midsection when it breaks down, it's just the bass going, and then the weird like like the guy's learning how to play guitar, but like it's such a crazy, and then it gets heavier and heavier, and it's a real cool song. And just that song alone will make me put that album in front of Get Your Wings, because it's really good. But then after that it gets weird. So they go from like being like a Black Sabbath, Budgie, whatever, to then like, oh, let's go Doobie Brothers with Rocking Down the Highway. You know, like you know, which is almost like Rolling Down the Highway. It's all the same, like, you know, same vibe.
Crying in the rain.
Yeah. And then you know, a lot of the other tracks on the record, like, then you get Secondhand, which then was my second favorite song on the record, because then they're back to the riff. C.F. Turner's back on vocal. He's like, screw that Guess Who shit. I don't want to hear that. Like, come on, Randy, let's be heavy. Let's be heavy. That's what I want to do. And Randy's probably like, no, man, I need to pay for my mortgage. Let's get the acoustic guitar out and do some more weird shit. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's what they were doing, right? They, from album to album, it's the same as Blue Oyster Cult. You listen to Joan Crawford and you're like, oh, this is a great song, but what the fuck is it doing on this record? And Blue Oyster Cult were able to do that, and BTO is kind of the same. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. These songs used to play on Canadian radio all fucking day. So, you know, it's the same. Like, okay, yes, Sweet Home Alabama was probably good for you guys, but when you like it played like 27 times a day, like after a while, like, hey, can we do like Sweet Home, like Oklahoma or anywhere else? Can we go like somewhere else? But yeah, so of course, and those guys like I think like Randy Bachman, some of those guys definitely from around like Winnipeg, Ontario, and like same as Neil Young and all that. And then a lot of them moved to British Columbia around Vancouver, which is like a kind of like a hotbed for like aging rock star because of the low tax. Well, used to be low taxes, not anymore, but used to be low cost and nice living with palm trees and all that. So like people like Paul Rogers, all the Bachman, they always hang out in the pub by the ocean there in White Rock, BC. So yeah, I get a lot of chance to get conversation with them. And of course, in Bachman Turner Overdrive, there was sometimes more than one Bachman. Like there was the drummer as well, and then the kids and all that. So we used to spend a lot of time with them. Great guys, really like down to earth, super easy to deal with. Really like Arlie guys, like like I said, they what they look like is really what they are. They're just like blue collar guys, chubby, just want to
Definitely.
fucking play some rock and make money and have fun. So yeah, that's Bachman Turner Overdrive. And then number one, by far, for me anyway, is Sweet Desolation Boulevard. Like, like when you listen to these guys, like for us when I grew up, like and I think like we were already geared towards the underground before the underground came. Like we always like people were talking fucking Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and we were like, yeah, UFO, Thin Lizzy, fucking Scorpions, and like Sweet, and we were kind of like trying to like tell them that our bands were better, that we like was better than the bands that they like, and we would make, yeah, like Eddie Scott on guitar, that guy is a reincarnation of fucking Richie Blackmore. And so when you listen to a song like Sweet FA, like it definitely gets like actually all side two written by the band. Every time I heard these songs, I was always thinking about Deep Purple and rock, just because of like some of the stuff that they do with the guitar effect, the delivery of Andy Scott, the way that he riffs and all that, the drums. These
Definitely.
guys at some point in their career life must have been Deep Purple fan, because they might have seen Deep Purple and be like, holy shit, I want to do that. And then they went and did it just as good, because these songs, even Set Me Free, which for like 1974 is pretty fast. It's a fast song with a fast riff. And these guys, unlike my poor friends in Bachman Turner Overdrive, had a much better appeal to the ladies with their look, their hair, the way they dress, and their style. So which then influenced a bunch of people to start like wearing their hair. Like people had like the bang and then the long hair. It started, and then platform shoes starting to appear at my school. And like, what the fuck is that? You're 5'3", but suddenly you're like 6 foot tall. So yeah, like I mean everything about this album, and was talking with my friend Tony Dio, I think in the last episode or something, that the Canadian version was different than the US version. The tracks are the same, it's just the position of the tracks is different. But I didn't realize that until I started looking and listening, because I'm like, yeah, I know, like, because I knew the UK was different, but I thought Canadian and US was different, but it's the same song, just different position on the record. So yeah, like they all the songs on this record, like like I think my favorite on this one, Sweet FA, by far favorite song. Into the Night is amazing. I also get that Deep Purple and rock vibe. Solid Gold Brass. Love Ballroom Blitz when it came out, like just the drum fill and all. Like that's like an to me it's just as memorable as We Will Rock You by Queen drum intro. Like right away, or like Led Zeppelin rock and roll. Like it's and that drummer, Mick Tucker, was also like an amazing drummer, just as the drummer from Tin Lizzy and on all those greats that sometimes
Don't
people
go crazy.
yeah, they don't talk about these guys enough. But yeah, Sweet, definitely. After that, they went for like 2, 3, 4 records of like amazing stuff. And I hope this episode will get people to go and dig into their catalog and try to take the time to really get to know that band, because there's some really heavy songs that came out after this album that needs to be discussed at some point. So that's it. That's for me. Top Suite, Desolation Boulevard.
Into the Night, man. Like that song. I got that
good.
in my head right now. But listen to all these albums all week, but the Suite I just keep going back to. I was on my morning walk today, was just checking it out. Like as I'm kind of looking at, I listened to it on Spotify, and even though like this album says it came out in '75, in the States, Spotify has this album at '74, so there's a lot of mix up with that. So even the other version was '74.
I think there's a loophole there that we can accept it into '74.
Into the Night. And into the night we go to Mr. Robert Tuttle and and bass player from Lady Evil and several other projects.
And Bone Tomahawk for a while too.
Bone Tomahawk. I saw your band leader today, Mark Garcia. He dropped by to visit.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was
Did
in
he
town.
bring the dragon?
No, he was talking about a werewolf that with glowing red eyes coming to your set soon, I guess.
Boy. The union's going to have to talk to somebody about this. All right, so this is my third pick, and I just got to say I'm not like a huge fan. It's Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. I was never like into them growing up, and I mean, same old song and dance, and Train Kept a Rolling, of course, which is a cover of a cover of a cover. I mean, they're all great songs. Just I don't know, they just never caught on with me. I don't know why. So my second pick is, and I used to have this on 8-track, is Bachman Turner Overdrive. You ain't seen nothing yet. Just like you said before, it was like every 7 minutes on local radio. It had to be. It wasn't even like heavy play. It was like saturated heavy play.
It was a number one hit, man.
The PTO. And I'm not even talking about PDH. I'm talking about like lesser stations, like up in here in Sullivan County and stuff. That song made it onto those stations, and those were like not rock stations.
That was
Sledgehammer
top 40 hit. Yep.
Oh yeah. They were all like, I mean, they made the stations up here made NBC seem like hard rock. Sledgehammer was really good, and I got from secondhand. I didn't notice it until I was like going over it this week. Was it kind of sounds a lot like Kiss's Strange Ways. It's got the same vibe. So obviously I looked at, they're both from '74, and I thought who influenced who. So I guess we'll never know, because it's not like one could say like they heard it and kind of were influenced by it, but they're the same year. Rolling on down the highway. You can hear it every truck stop in America at any given time. Both of the singers, they got great voices. Like I said before, all three bands have, tremendous frontmen. Maybe not frontmen with like Bachman Turner Overdrive, like Sasquatch said. Maybe they're not frontmen's not the exact. He's not going to be running around with platform shoes like Paul Stanley or anything. But the voices and stuff are, they're really good. And that's before auto-tune. These guys had to they had to do it themselves, or they were pumping gas and serving burgers. So yeah, I got that out of that. I had that on 8-track.
So did I.
A little matchbook underneath it to keep them squeaking. So my favorite of the three is like everybody else. I mean, it's sweet. Ballroom Blitz, Flocks on the Run. They were on the radio, nowhere near as much as Bachman Turner Overdrive. I mean, that's if you went by radio play as far as popularity, I mean, Sweet probably be like 20th on this list, at least around here. I mean, I don't remember them being on the radio hardly at all. They seem to have had more longevity than they actually had airplay. Again, but I'm in the middle of the Catskills up here, so
you didn't get WABC AM back in the day.
We did with what's his name? Was something Harrison? What was that?
Yeah.
Harry Harrison, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we got that.
Fox on the
I
Run.
remember Speed being on. I can remember You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet on that stage.
Yeah.
I remember
That one here remember, but Fox on the Run was on a lot too. But that was a number 5 hit, and yeah, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet was a number 1, so it probably got a lot more play.
And then Ace, of course, covered Fox on the Run.
Yeah,
That's right.
Ralphus
Yeah.
covered Ballroom Blitz. So I think Sweet is definitely bigger in Europe probably than we're in the United States.
oh yeah.
Definitely.
Because I mean, Def Leppard cited them as like a huge influence, and I love the "No You Don't." I thought that was a great song. Sweet FA, kind of a Queen thing. I mean, if you listen to the beginning stuff like that, I got a lot of like Queen out of that. So I mean, I don't know, 74. Yeah, it's real early Queen. So I mean, they would definitely be an influence on them.
Queen 2 albums that year. Got that English
Yeah,
flavor maybe.
I
I even heard a little Bowie at times.
Yeah,
in a way. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Blade.
But yeah, they definitely have like the I know in photography that they have like there's the American palette for color films and then the European palette for color films, and this is definitely like for music it's the same thing. I mean, there's definitely like an American formula and a European formula, and Sweet is definitely on the European formula. But they're I mean, the album was really good. I mean, there wasn't really like a clunker on the whole album.
No.
Well, that's my 3 picks. I got to go with I don't.
Excellent.
Not picking Aerosmith as being a favorite for anything is not going to be a popular choice, but I got to be me, and they never really did anything for me. I never disliked them. I never liked them. There's kind of just like there. So yeah, definitely Sweet. And they seem to have picked up momentum. They seem to have like kind of held on longer than that they were popular as I remember them in the 80s. Of course, I was like 8. Bachman Turner Overdrive, I could never, forget. But Sweet just didn't seem to have that popularity here in the States that they had elsewhere.
Fox on the Run, that's just a timeless song, I mean, it was even in like they bring it back in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
So, yeah. And I was talking about Chin and Chapman writing so many of their hits. The guys in Sweet actually wrote Fox on the Run. It's a very poppy song, but they wrote it. I wanted to throw in, I was looking up, we talking about Robert was talking about Ace covering it, and it's been covered by so many bands. But the Scorpions covered it in 1975 under the name Hunters, the Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in German. It's all in German, and the lyrics translate to about a hunter looking for a fox, not the version that I looked it up and found it on YouTube, and you can find if you look up Scorpions Fox on the Run, you can find it on YouTube.
Tony, did it make it as an extra cut on any of the reissues?
No, like I said, it was recorded under another name. So I mean, it was probably done. They probably got paid by somebody to do it, and they just put it out as a single in Germany. Yeah.
Wow. Sometimes when you translate things like that, might actually be how it translates out. A friend of mine had a book of Edgar Allan Poe, the works of Poe, and what they did was they took the American version, they translated into German, and then they translated the German back into American. It was just complete gibberish. It made no sense, nothing.
But like you said, Steve, about David Bowie, because if you go back to Man Who Sold the World album in 1970, it's pretty heavy. And like Robert, or the guitar player, he is vastly underrated because he can deliver some licks.
Yeah, that's who is I know that he had one guitar player throughout most of his career, didn't he?
Yeah, Mick Ronson.
Yeah,
the blonde guy.
Yeah,
and he I mean, he really can play. So it's I feel he could
definitely.
He also has a solo album in '74.
Oh,
all right. Okay, so let's move over to Nick, the drummer from York, PA, band Spellbook. If you get a chance, definitely check out Spellbook. And
I did.
You did? All right. So the viewers watching, go check out Spellbook too. They'll be coming back to Middletown in November. You guys just played, or you're playing with Armored Saint soon, right?
May 4th, playing with Armored Saint. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Cheers,
guys. Thanks for having me on. This is right up my alley. I'm pleasantly surprised with your guys' choices. Steven started off right away with the putting Aerosmith third, and I was like, oh shit. So
yeah, I would have laid money BTO was going to run away with it, but it's not the case.
Me too. So my third pick is Get Your Wings. It's a shame because I love this album, and it's like that far away from becoming like one of my favorite Aerosmith records. But like everyone has stated, Toys in the Attic, Rocks, Draw the Line, they're perfect. That is a holy trinity of American rock and roll right there. And while this is great, it just, I don't know if it's unfair to judge it by that, but like you just know they have to go that next little bit yet, what they're capable of doing. So it pains me to put it third, but that's my third pick. Another thing about it, Dick Hunter and Steve Wagner play solos on the album. When they were talking to Bob Ezrin to do the record, which he didn't, but he was in talks with him. And those guys are Bob Ezrin's like right-hand man. He brought him into Alice Cooper tons of times, Kiss. But Same Old Song and Dance, first track is great. It's not Joe Perry playing a guitar solo. It's a little disappointing.
I had read years ago in a guitar magazine, he brought them in because Joe, they couldn't play it.
Yeah, a little bit beyond them.
Somebody to do it.
Huh. Yeah, like apparently just a little bit beyond them at that point. And I remember seeing a thing saying how Joe Perry was pissed off after this record. Like, no additional musicians on records here on out. Like we play the leads, and so I thought that was interesting. My favorite songs off the record, I love Space, SOS. Seasons of Wither is great. Steven Tyler playing acoustic guitar on that, by the way. Train Kept a Rolling, another one where Wagner and Hunter are lead guitars. That whole lead section. That's not Joe Perry. That's not Brad Whitford. But still a great record. I just think it's that close, to getting up into their best records. But so that's my third pick. Second pick, following what everyone else is saying.
Yeah.
Not Fragile. And you have all commented about it, and it's the truth. I feel like when you decide you want to drive truck for a living and you go get your CDL, they hand you your CDL, long sleeve flannel, and a copy of this record. And it's like,
hey,
there you go.
Hey, Nick, could you open up the inside? It shows them on stage, and
yeah,
we've all been talking about how they look, and Danny said they weren't picking up a bunch of chicks, but I love that vest where it's like a denim vest and it's got the little studs on it. I think Randy Bachman is actually wearing there.
Yeah, I mean, they're wearing like college jerseys and stuff.
Yeah.
It's all taking care of business.
That album,
no trimmings.
The back of that album, how many times I opened that, looked at it. Yeah.
But I personally, I love the Guess Who. Whole different thing. I get it, but I love the Guess Who, and tons of hits. Obviously, Randy Bachman's involved with. I was surprised when researching. Free Willin' was brought up, and that is for me. It comes right at the end of side one.
Yeah,
and it just breaks it up, and you'd swear that is a Randy Bachman, him, but it's credited to Blair Thornton, who was new to the band on this record. And now, whether Randy helped him with it, and that's why it has that Guess Who flair to it, maybe, but it's credited to Blair Thornton. But it's definitely one of the highlights on the album for me. Not Fragile starts out like everyone says, dude. That riff is so heavy that rivals like Nazareth. It has that tone, like hair of the dog tone. Like it is crushingly heavy. But the interesting thing about it is Robbie on drums is playing it. He's not going Bill Ward. He's not doing John Bonham. Like it brings a total different feel to it. And it's like with BTO, Denny was stating about it earlier. Like you want to hear the heavy shit because you know they're capable of it. But it's like everything is written with trying to still be heavy, but having a hook, and and like just writing a drum hook, with using the hi-hats like that, almost like disco. You know what I mean? Like just to try to like it's this plumbing song, but trying to make it as hooky as possible. I thought it was pretty clever. Rolling Down the Highway, my favorite single. That is the official trucker song right there. Sledgehammer, take those lyrics how you want. Multiple different ways. Heavy, bludgeoning riffs, and Secondhand as well is another one of my favorites off the album. So then that leaves what everyone's picked so far.
Really surprising.
Desolation Boulevard.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, this is a huge influence on my band. It may not come out like so apparent, but like when especially the singer Nate, all the years we've been doing this band and focusing in, when we got into Captain Beyond and Made Blitz and Lucifer's Friend, and the list goes on and on. When we started discovering that side of late 60s and 70s hard rock, we became obsessed with it. And of course, we always want to do Sabbath, Deep Purple, their favorite bands of all time. But we got obsessed with it. When I started getting into Sweet, and I was like, dude, you gotta, like, I know they're known for Ballroom Blitz and Little Willie and stuff like that, but like, they are fucking heavy, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see them, it's like, oh my God. And then another great thing, this is a great book, Martin Popoff. These guys were just hellraisers. They bar fights, getting in trouble. Like they were a rough band. I mean, Brian Connolly, yeah, out of all the bands we're talking about, other than Steven Tyler, maybe Brian Connolly, was the GQ, the ladies' man, I guess to say. But the rest of the band, like Mick Tucker, them guys were badasses, like rough guys. Out of all these guys, Mick Tucker is the best at his instrument in any of these bands. He deserves to be up there with Ian Pace, Bonham, Bill Ward, Mitch Mitchell. He's that good. Playing that double kick stainless steel kit in platforms. Dude, amazing. I don't know. That's the coolest shit in the world to me. But it's been discussed about the different track listing. Said it before, the original, they wanted a more live feel, and that's why you're getting that vibe off them. So Medusa, it's a little bit more grittier. Their version of Fox on the Run on that it's doesn't have the iconic intro that we hear all the time on the radio over here, because they re-recorded that for the US release. But favorite songs, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to pick. I love both versions. No matter what, the 74 version or the 75 US version, it would still be my number one, because there's just so many nuggets, like, and ear candy things that you hear, and like you're always discovering something new. I feel like too when you listen to these songs, like if you, like I was just discussing earlier, you go on Spotify, you're going to hear the US version. You have to go on YouTube or something to listen to the UK version, online. And it's like I always hear something a little different I didn't hear the first time, or or the 100th time. But since we're talking about the US version, No You Don't, definitely. I Want to Be Committed, one of the heaviest songs on this record. Sweet FA, Set Me Free. Set Me Free, you listen to the first track off of our album, Magic Mischief, Wands to the Sky. that is definitely influenced by Sweet. So and Solid Gold Brass, I just love how they can be this bubblegum band, and then it's like I've coined this. I've said it's like they're like bubblegum wrapped in barbed wire. You know, they're on top of the pops and all the sparkle shit and everything. And then I didn't pull it. I wish I would have. There's a live bootleg of Sweet in Denmark, and all the profanity that's said in between each song. Like, they were a rock and roll band. Like, that's what they wanted to be. They were steered in the beginning of their career to be this bubblegum glitzy band. But this is what they wanted to be. And this was like the start of it. And like everyone said, all the albums that came after getting heavier and heavier and exactly what they wanted to do. So yeah, they're my that's my order, and Sweet by a mile.
Since we're in the year 1974 here, we've taken the time capsule back. Nick got a present from his girlfriend for his birthday. And
my wife.
Your wife. All right.
Yes.
All right. We'll make sure it's a wife. We don't get in trouble on it. Girlfriend didn't give it to his wife did. But anyhow, let's see this present. It's that's what's issued. I'm 74. It's 7-Eleven United States.
Nice.
Did this Rock Cup series. It tells you a little bit about Alice on the back, and
Yep.
I drank a lot of Slurpees back in the 70s, and boy, I love going to get the 7-Eleven. Now, Denny, did they have 7-Eleven? It's Canadian too, right? Or no?
We didn't have them back now.
You didn't? Okay.
Not
So
back then.
So yeah, we had to. Of course, the Slurpee cups originally were like sports related: football, baseball, basketball. I never saw hockey ones in the States, but then they did like Wild West, and then they came out with these rock cups, and the rock cups were pretty damn cool. And I feel really bad because I have a Bachman Turner Overdrive one. Should I go get it? Should I go blank for a minute and go get my cup?
Yeah.
I should go get it.
Go get it.
Yes.
So I'm going to have Ralph go and tell his picks, and I'm going to go get my
All right.
Bachman Turner Overdrive cup. I'm not going to drink out of it because it's probably very dirty. But
Dirty rock and roll.
So Ralph, we'll go with your picks, or I'll come back as fast as I can get it.
All right, yeah, so when we first got this assignment, I think I always see what we're looking at, and I always come up with a list immediately before I listen to it. So right away, I had, the ones I thought, and it completely flipped around when I started listening to the albums. Actually, the only album out of these that I even own is "Get Your Wings" by Aerosmith, and I thought that was gonna be my number one, but I end up, like so many of you, it's on the bottom of my list, and I like "Season of Wither." I like Space. There's a part where Tyler's screaming and he like strains his voice. It's pretty unique. It shows quite a bit of range at the time. Lord of the Thighs, of course, same old song and dance. But Train Kept a Rolling. I had a quick story. Was I was working landscaping in the 90s, and this older guy was driving the truck, and we were already told we can't play heavy metal in the truck because he doesn't like that stuff, So we just had the regular radio, classic rock radio on. And Train Kept the Rolling came on, and when it was over, he was like, "That's it. I can't listen to this music no more. This is crazy. All that screaming and yelling." And we're looking at him like, "What the fuck? This is a song, a cover song from 1961, and you can't handle it." And it was probably something that when he was growing up, he would have heard at that age, but he just hated it. And it's funny because every time I hear that song now, I always think, wow, this is kind of heavy, But I was shocked that he acted like I was playing grindcore or something. It was crazy. But yeah, then second, so I never owned Not Fragile, but man, what a great album. And I've only listened to it a few times now, but with each listen, unbelievable. That Freewheeling is a great instrumental. Roll On Down the Highway is probably the heaviest song out of all three of these songs. The way he sings and just the fat riffs and everything throughout it. Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. Sledgehammer was great, and Secondhand I thought was really good. Giving It All Away. He was talking about like the truck driver songs. They used to call their fans the gearheads back then.
Yeah.
I like that the title track. Not Fragile is great too. And then Sweet is a band that I've never listened to this album in full, and it's kind of funny because Steve Keeler starts the episode talking about how there's two versions, and we're gonna focus on the 1974 American version. He didn't fucking say that in the thing, so I didn't know there was two versions, you know. So I'm listening to it on YouTube, and the first time I'm listening to it, it's not coming up with the song title, so I got to pull up my phone and try to get the song track listing. And as I'm going, I'm like, this ain't the right song for what they're. And I'm like, where's this like Who song on here? Like it was confusing. Then the second time I listened to it, I heard all the other songs that were supposed to be on it. So all in all, though, I listened to both of them, and I knew there was something going on there, but I didn't research it and figure it out. But I thought on both versions there wasn't one bad song, and I was shocked at how much I liked it. Because I think whenever I thought of them, you hear a glam rock band, and I for some reason I always confused them a little bit with Slade. I always thought they were in that same kind of category. But in songs like you talk about Fox on the Run and the Guardians of the Galaxy, when I watched that in the theater, I thought it was the Ace Frehley version because Ace's version sounded so much like it from the Anomaly album that it wasn't until I just heard it again and I was like, oh wow, this is a cover. And then I realized this is the actual version from the movie, not Ace's song. But another the Ballroom Blitz, when I was like 13 or so, the Crocus had the album The Blue, and they did that video for that song was on like crazy. So I knew the song more from that cover version. And Steve talking about being 14 years old when he was getting into this, that's such an important reason why these albums are so important to him. Because when I was 14, 13 and 14 is when you stop collecting comic books and stuff and start spending your money more on albums and getting your music collecting going. And that's just a really influential time to what you're going to like for years to come. So I can see if I was around in 74, if I was 14 years old, this would definitely been like my favorite stuff out there. I mean, Black Sabbath, of course, and Deep Purple, but this would have been all right mixed in there with that. And getting into it later on, it was like it was old music, and I didn't really think about it. I never took the time to get into it, but I really got to like investigate more of the Sweet stuff because the drums were really amazing too on Sweet. Like he had that Moon Mitch Mitchell style where it's really busy with music like that classic hard rock. When you get a drummer that busy, it really stands out. Like in death metal, everybody's going full blast and stuff. But with this band, they really stood out, those drums to me. And it's kind of like that with even like the KK's Priest that we talked about recently. Like in that classic heavy metal, when you're playing drums like that, it really stands out more. But so like so many of you guys, Sweet number one.
Oh yeah.
Is Keeler back?
Yeah, Mick Tucker's a beast.
I looked all over. I found this giant pile of 7-Eleven rock cups, and here's Charlie Rich.
Charlie Rich.
And he it even tells the hits. He does the single Behind Closed Doors. Of course, we can't remember that from 74. Forget that one at least. But I found it. I couldn't find it, but here it is, the Bachman Turner Overdrive Slurpee Cup.
Oh wow.
And there they are.
That's cool.
C.F. Turner, Rob Bachman. We've got Randy Bachman and Blair Thornton. And BTO rocketed from a little-known group in Western Canada to the pinnacle of the music world in less than 2 years. Starting in 74, the band introduced 3 albums, which became gold sellers and went on to platinum LPs. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet moved to be #1 on the singles charts. And across the bottom, it tells some of the better. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. Hey You, we can't forget that one. Blue Collar. We said they were blue collar guys. They got a song. 4-Wheel Drive, the truck driving anthem. And of course, how did Taking Care of Business, you would think would have been a #1 single too, but I guess it wasn't. But of course, it was one of their famous songs. So
as a Canadian, it brings tears to my eyes to see this cup.
I've got the Johnny Nash cup. He can see clearly now the rain is gone.
Nice. He can. All right.
Mac Davis cup. These are the rock cups.
Get hooked on that one.
I got the Average White Band.
All right.
Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods, but Billy Don't Be a Hero.
I don't even know who that is.
Neil Sedaka.
Oh
He
shit!
made the
Oh, yeah.
rock cups. Leon Russell.
Man,
But,
Crazy.
but
Nice.
I've got more, but I've got a lot of Mac Davis if anybody needs one.
Okay.
And of course the Glenn Campbell Cup, which we spoke about earlier, which is we use for a pinball.
Oh, Glenn Campbell, yeah.
And we got
Sing it,
Yes,
Caroline.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Loggins and Messina.
Oh.
And you can't forget the history of the rock with the Pointer Sisters.
Oh,
But yeah, Charlie Rich, Pointer Sisters. I don't. There are some. Of course, the Jay Giles band got a cup.
All
Oh,
right.
there you go. Nice.
So when you think 1974, you think Slurpee rock cups.
Jay Giles band got one, but Black Sabbath did.
Black
Yeah, right.
Sabbath did not get one. The Allman Brothers have one though.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
But the DeFranco family has one too, though.
Bay-City Rollers.
No, I don't believe so. There's a list. You can Google it. It'll come up if you put rock cups, and it'll show you
Crazy.
every one of them. Fifth Dimension got one. So. Anyhow, so Count Ralphus, sorry I missed your episode. I'll go back and watch it. Your not your episode, but your segment. And Ovi's gonna close us down here. I'm glad I went and got the Bachman Turner Overdrive. I'm surprised it was in that pile because I know we were using it for. We have pinball tournaments and we'll use those for trophies during the summer because we keep it pretty 70s out back.
Yeah, so
Such as 70s pinball machines we have here.
So this music is not really what I grew up with. It wasn't my genre really. So I'm kind of fresh coming in, fresh. Everybody else have heard them in and out for years. I really haven't heard any of these albums like full until now. So I'm kind of the fresh look at this. And for me, number 3 is Bachman Turner Overdrive. I mean, I've heard, of course, I've seen nothing yet, but I would say it is not really fair to the whole album because the album is so much more in that song.
Yeah.
And over here, that's the song. That's the song that's known.
It's probably the least European appealing record of the 3. Like, it's really not Norway.
So,
unless you got trucks to drive.
Yeah, but the songs that really stuck out for me, I really liked Freewheeling and Giving It All Away, and my favorite one was Secondhand.
Nice.
As for Aerosmith too, I like Aerosmith. I like one song here, I like one song there, and it's like what I've heard. But of this album, actually, I found it kind of creative because it's so different from the rest of the albums I've heard of them. It's like being said earlier here, it's experimental and it's kind of. But the only thing that struck me about the album, if that other producer, like Nick said, had produced the album, I think it would be a completely different album.
Yeah,
Because
Bob
for me,
Ezrin.
the sound is kind of dry.
Yes.
It's kind of a dry production, and I think that kills a lot of the oomph in the album.
It does.
But the songs are good, but it's like they don't get the wrapping that it should have. As for songs, I like Lord of the Flies and Seasons of Wither, and the coolest one I actually thought was Pandora's Box. It's just so weird that I couldn't stop listening. It was like, what are they taking? I want to have some. And as of course, number 1, are you ready, Steve?
I'm ready.
It's sweet.
Is this a sweet sweep?
It is.
Yeah.
Not picked me.
Yeah.
A landslide. I looked at the covers, and the covers too are different from our version to your version. Our version has a different logo.
Yeah.
Yours just blown up closer to them, and a different logo with like stripes going over. It's yeah. Bring it closer to Tony.
Yeah.
Bring them together so you can see.
Reflection really bad from the covers.
But you see like there's a major difference there.
Yeah. Colors are different too.
Yep. And I can say that Sweet, I've always heard Ballroom Blitz, of course, and I didn't really heard Fox on the Run until I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, to be perfectly honest with you all.
A lot of people your age discover classic rock through that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No
like a
joke, seriously.
revelation. That's like a Bible right there.
And Fox on the Run, that was also in Detroit Rock City.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Well, you know, Ballroom Blitz, I thought earlier too was, you know, remember Tia Carrere did that in Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
Yep,
there's
good call.
a cut scene
Wayne's
in
World,
Guardians of the
party
Galaxy
time.
that they use Fox on the Run by Sweet, but if you watch out the deleted scenes on the movie, it's actually they used a montage Daydream by David Bowie when their spaceship comes in that movie. So they changed it with Sweet before. As the album, I listened to the 74 album because I didn't discover until later there was a 75.
Yeah.
And I also gonna do like Steve, I'm gonna cheat a little bit because my number 3 is Teenage Rampage, and it's not on the album, but I thought it was a great song. So I'm doing a little killer here and taking a left
That's
turn.
fine.
Yeah. And
It's
number
an album that
2,
was released for between 2 years there. So,
Yeah.
and you're in
Number
Europe, so
2
you should be giving us the 74 version.
yeah. Number 2 is Fox on the Run, and it's like it's so much better than Ballroom Blitz. I mean everybody likes Ballroom Blitz, but I think Fox on the Run is, I don't know, just better written. It sounds just better because it's more edgy, got more guts to it. As for number 1, I gotta correct Ed a little bit because the man with the golden arm is Elmer Bernstein from the movie with Frank Sinatra, the man with the golden arm.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm. So it's a theme from that song that they have made into here. And the guitar solo at the end, like Ed said, and everything is just that's a brutal song. You wouldn't think that it's a 60s or 50s movie or whatever it is, but it's a heavy monster of 8 minutes and 27 seconds. So that's my number 1. It's nothing glam about it at all. So that's for me. That is for me.
So yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got the Wayne's World album right here too. We're talking. He got Tia
Nice.
Carrere doing Ballroom Blitz. Yeah,
I
sure.
think that's my favorite version.
And I say we're talking about how the Guardians of the Galaxy turned like a whole generation onto 70s AM rock. For a while, I had a girl named Ruby that was working for me. She was on the Rock Fantasy Files when we did
I
a
remember her.
Ghost episode. She doesn't work for me anymore, but she works at the little neighborhood bar where she was working when I hired her, because I would go over there and they would have like Spotify or XM radio, and they'd be in there listening to like 70s on 7. And it's like, and these kids knew all these songs, like Alvin Bishop Fooled Around and Fell in Love. It's like, how do you guys know? It's like a time machine. I mean, I loved hanging out there because it was playing good music. The kids were, they were all, like early 20s or whatever. And quite a few of them said, well, Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Wow.
And I never watched the Guardians of the Galaxy movie when it first came out, but I went, and that's what made that movie cool to me, was that whole, like, they'd do some kind of crazy battle and they'd come walking out to like Come and Get Your Love by Redbone or something like that. Another song that came out in 74. Of course, the whole storyline to that movie was that Star Fox's mom was dying, and she had a cassette tape, a mixtape, and she gave that to him, and he was listening to that with all these great 70s hits on. So
Which
so
place?
Guardians of the Galaxy and Groot and Rocket Raccoon turned a lot
I
of
think it's
people
the
on
best
the
movie
sweet.
of all those.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it was cool. And Wayne's World too. A lot of people used to call me Wayne. They say I look like Wayne. So. Or Garth, rather. I don't have the hat on. I should get a Wayne. Somebody just send me a Wayne's World hat. I'll wear it on the show some week.
See how Steve acts when he hears Foxy Lady come on the jukebox.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But anyhow, I thought this was a little fun episode going back 50 years.
Yeah, it was
Not
really
talking.
fun.
I mean, we've done classic before. Usually Rand would join us for these, but he didn't join us this time. But we will dive back into 74. I don't know whether it won't be next week, but there's Rush, there's Blue Oyster Cult, there's Bowie, there's quite a few albums
Queen.
we can still touch on. Queen, two
Good
Queen
stuff.
albums, I believe, in 74
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
US. So viewers that are watching, if you like what we're doing, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. Hit like and talk about your favorites from these three. Any moments you got, anybody that got to see these tours that watches the channel, it's a little bit older. Did anyone see Sweet in the States? Did anyone see Bachman Turner Overdrive back in the 70s? Or of course Aerosmith I saw later on in like 78 when I was a little bit older enough to go to concerts. But anyhow, it's been great. Thanks for coming on to the Rock Fantasy channel again. Thanks to Ovi and Tony and Ed and of course Sasquatch, my center square, and Robert and Nick and Count Ralphus. Thanks for giving their time to the channel tonight, and we appreciate it. We'll see you next week on the Rock Fantasy Files.